I live in Southwest Florida. At 6 months, my pool coping brick started to show stains, white and gray on the underside of the bullnose. Every morning, the coping is wet, and once it dries, the stains are there. The pool company installer told me use a vinegar and water mix and scrub. It didn't work. Then they used a pumice tool, no change. They then used muriatic acid 3 times, which turned my tan grout white, but no real change in the brick. I suspect water behind the coping and tile is leaching out through the grout on the coping. No one from this pool company has seen this before. Any thoughts?
So I don't know that there's water leaching out from behind. My thought is, if it's wet every morning, whether it's just the dew, I'm assuming there's a structure around it, a screened in, as most of them at least have a screen. Maybe it's not a solid structure, but at least a screen-in structure. If the brick is wet every morning, it's either condensation, possibly, number one, or number two, are you watering? Is there landscaping beds that would have that you're sprinkling that would get them wet? But here's what could happen is if that water runs down the surface and the brick isn't either wasn't fired properly or it's a bit porous, it'll draw some of that moisture into the brick, and then gravity pulls it down to the underside, and as it comes through, it's leaching out basically calcium. It's called efflorescence. And by the sound of it, if you're saying it's gray and it's white, it's on the underside of the brick, it's an efflorescence thing. So it's either coming down through that brick with whatever is wetting the surface on the top, or possibly there could be some water behind the pool. There's always a chance that there's water behind the wall of the pool, broken sprinkler line, something that's allowing that water to work its way between the brick and the pool shell itself. And I guess as it comes down right there, I'm not quite understanding, is this only on the brick or are we seeing a shadow of it on the tile as well? If there's a shadow of it on the tile as well, that could indicate that there's water coming through from the backside of the shell and drawing the efflorescence out, the calcium out of the mud, the grout that is actually holding the brick in, and then weeping down. So what it sounds like to me, though, is you certainly have an issue with moisture, and whether it's coming from the dew in the morning, which you wouldn't think that there'd be enough, but if you're saying it's wet every morning, that's indicating that there's an awful lot of moisture hanging out right there. Really, the best solution, again, like you said, you try to acid wash it and it changes the color of your grout, which it absolutely will. I mean, from a chemical standpoint, I would look at trying to find something on the market that is used to remove efflorescence. And if you can get that efflorescence off, I don't know what the brick is, but it might be worth researching to see if there's a brick sealer that could be used. I wouldn't roll it on the whole thing right away. I would do a sample somewhere. And there's a couple products out there, I can't think of the name offhand, but they're enhancer products. A lot of them are used to enhance stone so that you see the real color, because if you've ever seen a big natural stone, when it's wet, it's more rich and colorful, and when it dries out, it's not. Or if you have a lot of carved concrete, the same thing. You can do these really beautiful boulders and structures, and then when they're dry, they kind of wash out gray, but when you wet them, they have a nice rich color. So those are color enhancers, and those are basically sealers, and they make it appear like it's wet. They make it so that you're seeing that color. You might be able to find something like that to put on the brick to keep it from continuing that efflorescence process, and it actually would seal the brick in, seal the pores of that brick.